Oh, we got a doozy for you on this beautiful spring day. Go ahead and strap yourself in. It is Vampire Counts versus Bretonnia for a classic fantasy matchup here. Manfred von Karstein versus the Fae. Galruch, the submitter of this replay, taking quite a wide build here, as is pretty typical for Vampire Counts. Some Vargeists in the air, and then we've got some Skeleton Spears, zombies as a front line, and a couple of Blood Knights with a Unholy Lodestone Corpse card for some passive healing. Absolutely essential. Vigor refresh as well is extremely good. A Fan Enchantress on the opposite side with a couple of Paladins up in the sky. 4 Pegasus Knights. Love to see it. One of my personal favorite units for Bretonnia, just the lower tier Pegasus Knights. One of the cheapest, bestest flying cavalry in the game. Spearmen at Arms here as well. We've got Holy Wardens of Maisenthal holding the center, and then a bunch of fire arrows, it looks like. All fire arrows, yeah. Interesting choice. I guess trying to mitigate as much healing as possible and also do extra damage to anything with that regeneration trait, which in this build is actually just corpse card. But again, lots of healing, especially passive healing happening with the hunger and so forth, so makes sense to have that little bit of fire to help mitigate that. And then the Pegasus Knights, yeah, like I said, huge fan of them. Great charge bonus, great anti-large. Not the best armor, but they did recently get a mass buff. Relatively recently. It was like a month and a half ago by now or more. But anyway, yeah, let's see how things get going. We're going to see Fate of Viuna. Manfred throwing quite a bit of Winds of Magic down on that. Of course, he can generate a decent amount extra, assuming he brought his Sword of Unholy Power, which he did. Gives him, in theory, infinite regeneration, considering he gets more power reserve from being in melee. But, yeah, it does require him being in melee, obviously, which is certainly easier said than done at times. But Regrowth, trying to counteract that, and actually lose any models there, but just basically eating each other's magic wins, which, for the cost there, Fate of Buna is 22. Which is more than Regrowth's 13. Yeah, by a pretty substantial margin. Granted, they get some damage there after the Regrowth is done. But the Paladins go for a risky dive here. Trying to get on Manfred. One gets stuck and might get eaten by Vargeist, Manfred, Blood Knights. The Blood Knights might have actually pushed him out of it there, but oh, trying to drop a comet directly on Manfred. It is actually possible to hit a single entity with this missile and do direct damage to it. But let's see here. At the very least, that is going to fall, destroying my frame rates and doing some damage to the Vargeist, the Blood Knights. Looks like it didn't hit Manfred. We've also got a fight unfolding over here. The Vargeist just trading pretty poorly. They're a unit that I see used frequently when I see Vampire Counts games, and frequently struggle as well due to their low armor and low defense. They are quite glass cannons. Here, they get out-traded very cost-effectively by the Pegasus Knights with their anti-large bonus and charge and everything. With the Earthblood healing here, Fan Enchantress also charging in to support. Even the Blood Knights might have a little bit of a bad time. They'll probably get some good value there regardless, but if they can heal, sustain through that, they might be doing okay. This is a much better use case for the Vargeist, being able to get past enemy mobility and start to blast units on the ground. Get rid of some of these peasant archers. One quick shock charge gets rid of the unit, which is, again, that is the utility of Vargeist, right? If you can get them into the right position, they can definitely do a lot of damage, but glass cannons as they are, I don't know. Personally, I don't feel like they necessarily synergize great with a lot of Vampire Counts playstyle. But, I don't know. I guess it does fulfill a necessary role. I do feel like maybe you could have done the same thing with Bats and Hounds. Just had more numbers of stuff here. But anyway, Regrowth being used there, trying to keep these Pegasus Knights in the fight for as long as possible. Got some others, or at least the, what are the Paladins over there fighting some Vargeist, trying to finish off that unit as well. So Vargeist, at the very least, being a little bit sticky right now, taking up some time and resources of other units. The Blood Knights did also survive that engagement, managing to get some healing. They're rallying now. Should rally to the Corpse Cart. They can get some passive healing, just kind of hang there. Get some Vigor regeneration as well to contend in the late game. Yeah, there's nothing here, I don't think, with perfect Vigor. There's no Grail tier units. They actually buy Blessing of the Lady here. They did not. But, yeah, Fan Enchantress getting her drain in is great when there's no passive healing around for the Vampire Counts. That'll be continuously dealing damage to, like, these units that have passive healing, basically just counteracting their passive healing, right? Or potentially even more. if they're not really getting much of it. But yeah, nice Earthblood there as well. But let's see, Vampire Count's still certainly hanging around. One unit of Blood Knights quite healthy still, and more importantly, Manfred is basically completely healthy still, with a lot of the DPS units for Bretonnia starting to get killed. Yeah, the nice Comet land there does manage to do some pretty good damage, but most of the Pegasus Knights have been dealt with at this point. The Paladins also get a little bit separated here. One gets killed by Manfred there, just straight up, while the other is trying to get back into position here. Fights him up in the sky, but 1v1 might not go great for him. Let's see, Manfred even charges down to the ground, get the support of his Blood Knights. The Blood Knights are being peppered by fire arrows here. They do pull away from that engagement, but let's see, Enchantress a little bit vulnerable to getting sniped. 2v1, they should be fine. Yeah, a little indication of Nehek there, it sounds like, on the Blood Knights. They pull away, so they're not getting shot by the fire arrows, but still get some contact. The air, yeah, the on fire going to reduce the efficiency of that healing by 50%, which is pretty significant. But again, if there's anyone who doesn't care too much, Manfred, as he continues to regenerate magic. The Paladin, though, Favor of the Fae active momentarily, had huge melee attack bonus, getting some good hits on Manfred. Actually fast enough on the Pegasus to keep up with him. Gonna have to screen through the spears. Oh, did Manfred cut enough of a path? He did, that the Paladin can actually just keep up. But might have to actually screen with the Blood Knights here, something a little bit heavier mass. Or, yeah, just take that engagement. Now the Paladin's a little bit overextended. Ooh, he rear charges the Corpse Cart, and then he himself is going to get potentially rear charged here. Paladin in some trouble. Kind of the reverse damsel in distress situation. The Enchantress going to have to come bail him out. Certainly is punching Manfred quite hard, but taking huge damage right now. Yeah, the Enchantress does have a pretty solid rear charge bonus. If she were able to get a rear charge into Manfred, maybe get a couple of attacks on him. It's risky. She's going to go for it here, though. Pop a regrowth on him. Will it be enough to keep him from terror routing here? And can she get through her own troops? Does kind of struggle to get through the Holy Wardens, and we're going to see a zombie summon. Pretty clutch placement as well. Does actually catch her, and the Paladin kind of bogs them down for a second. While these high-value units can pull away from the Vampire Counts. Manfred is teetering on the edge right now of his life, but he is getting passive healing, at least from the Corpse Cart for the time being. Can stack that with the Hunger momentarily. Just did a big breath attack on the Fae, and also hits the Corpse Cart pretty badly there, but hey, it's worth it to get the damage on the Fae at this point. The Corpse Cart, of course, has multiple passive healing sources for itself. But right now, the passive healing of the Vampire Counts is just kind of outlasting on some critical units. Yeah, you can see the Fae Enchantress and the Paladin both terror route, but somehow the balance of power is favoring Bretonnia right now. I'm not really sure about that, maybe because these archers came back from route, but yeah, the Blood Knights should be able to move through, help clean up. You notice here how Manfred's Vigor also is basically still fresh, right? Animated is essentially the equivalent to fresh. While Fae Enchantress is exhausted, that Vigor refresh from the Corpse Cart, such an underrated aspect of it. But especially when combined with the passive healing, just makes these late game scenarios so tough to overcome when you're up against the Vampire Counts. And we see Bretonnia now struggling. The Paladin's been dealt with at this point. Maybe got a little bit of healing there. Favor of the Fae doesn't help much, but yeah, Fae Enchantress takes a big hit there. And balance power still is kind of teetering on it, but I don't know, maybe these archers are all able to get in range and finish either Manfred or the Blood Knights. Could be the end. They could also choose to focus the Corpse Cart instead, which honestly, that might be the play at this point. Get rid of that passive healing and the Vigor refresh. Try and stabilize things a little bit here, but I mean, obviously the Blood Knights and the Manfred have the mobility, and the melee threats just come over here and stomp on the rest of the archers. So let's see if they do that. But it's definitely going to be very, very close for sure. Yeah, the longer they take to kind of deal with all these random little tattered units, Vampire Counts, it's going to be for them potentially, although they, again, that passive healing, maybe not. Maybe it's actually worse for Bretonnia the longer this goes on. Some units are getting close to their healing cap, the Blood Knights at least. Manfred is not, but that little obelisk doing some clutch, at least changing Bretonian trajectories on their bows here. But leadership continuing to give out. Fae Enchantress staying alive, but ooh, let's see, can she actually screen here? The Spearman not quite in position. Their leadership is also extremely low. Breath attack going to just finish them off. Yep, deserved a breath attack from Manfred. But yeah, Enchantress herself definitely can't stand against unit of Blood Knights, and the archers are not going to be anything for melee, so and the other archer firing in from the side be enough to win here. Yeah, the Enchantress, I mean, she wants to be in melee to take advantage of that favor of the Miss of the Lady AoE drain, but at the same time, it's pretty squishy, so at this point, really doesn't want to be in melee. Although that drain, if she were able to come, like, fight alongside these spearmen, maybe, could finish off the Blood Knights. Just trying to rally whatever troops she can, but right now, Manfred is the main threat, trying to avoid getting charged by him. Yeah, you can see kind of the bait there. Baits him into the spears a little bit, but immediately pulls away. Yeah, this unit of archers here is starting to run out of ammunition. Definitely going to need this other unit of archers ammo, so moving them, screening them out. The summoned zombies are almost down. Things are getting extremely tight, but the balance of power has flipped into what I think is a little bit more of a realistic situation, with the Enchantress having taken some hits and the archers kind of using up their ammunition. Manfred just, you know, staying on the move, not taking too much damage here, and the Blood Knights also. I mean, over 300 kills. Yeah, almost 30,000 damage dealt, like 3,000 damage value. The fact they've been able to persevere through this late game definitely shows their strength. Galrush put a lot of value into them as well, but yeah, that's going to be game. That hit on the Enchantress causes army losses, and quite the battle for sure. Definitely enjoyed a wild one. There was definitely points where I thought Bretonnia might actually take that, but ultimately zombies and everything else, it's really the zombies. It's their build, to be honest. No, but yeah, one Blood Knight kind of gets crushed here by the multiple Pegasus Knights. The other Blood Knight does everything you need it to. Vargeist largely don't trade cost effectively here. Pegasus Knights are a really good counter for them. Probably one of the best, most cost-efficient counter units game, especially when they can kind of double up here. But a couple of the Pegasus Knights didn't pay for themselves. The other two definitely did. Average them all out, and it's pretty decent performance all the way around. I mean, a lot of healing from the vampire count, so you would expect some inflated values a little bit on that, but 286 kills, 1,100 gold value, 21,000 damage dealt by the Holy Wardens. They are absolutely on a crusade of their own here. Fire arrows, largely very cost-effective as well. One of them, 1,300 damage value, almost 10,000 damage dealt. Pretty impressive stuff. One of those ones hanging around until the late game. But yeah, ultimately, it's not being able to overcome that last Blood Knight's armor and the last little bit of resistance. I almost wonder, again, for a CA 12321 here, maybe the archers, if you could focus that corpse cart a little bit earlier on, certainly easier said than done, but get that thing off the field so that the vigor refresh and the healing isn't so much in the late game, because I definitely think that that's what was key to Galrush's victory here. Being able to keep Manfred operating at basically full strength, you know, keeping those Blood Knights alive. So, some very clutch plays by the corpse cart, and anyone who's looking to learn or play the vampire counts absolutely gotta learn how to use this unit effectively. So that's it for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.